Google is pressing ahead with the introduction of a new privacy policy, despite warnings from the EU that it might break its data protection laws. It'll mean that private information collected by one Google service can be shared with its other platforms, including YouTube and Gmail. Well, earlier I spoke to Nick Pickles from the civil liberties group Big Brother Watch. He said many consumers were still unaware of the changes to Google's privacy policies.
Our research has shown that 9 out of 10 consumers haven't read this document. They're still no clearer on what this means for their personal information, and it's a very dangerous precedent when a regulator who are protecting consumers' privacy asks for a company to take more time to consider something, and the company continues regardless.
Isn't it funny, you talk about people taking more time to consider things, and yet people can't be bothered to read the privacy policy that's there for them to read?
Well, it's only actually been in the public domain for just over 5 weeks now, so that's a relatively short time period for something that's consolidating, as you said, 70 documents into one 7-page document. And the reality is that consumers probably aren't going to read the detail of this, and that's why we need strong consumer protection.
OK, what are the dangers posed by this change?
Well, the real worry is that Google can now combine all the different pieces of information it knows about you and tie them to a single identity. So the idea that you were using the web as just another user disappears, and now the combination of YouTube and Gmail, and even really if you're using an Android phone, location data. There's a serious privacy question here, and that's why the regulators do need to investigate and should be listened to.
This phrase, there's a serious privacy question. What is the privacy question? I mean, if we use anything, if we use credit cards, people can check and see where you've been doing your shopping. It's no more than an extension of that, is it?
Well, it's an extension of that, but it's a massive extension of it. It's all your web use, and the number of services that Google offers does mean that the amount of data they're capturing is disproportionately higher, and we're at risk of becoming a data arms race where companies like Google and Facebook are trying to outbid each other with how much personal information they can capture to improve the service that they can offer to advertisers, who at the end of this are their customers. We, the users, are not customers, we're the product.
Nick Pickles there from Big Brother Watch. Well, Google's Peter Barron insisted that its change in privacy policy was part of a drive to create a better service for users.
The reason we collect the data is to provide better services for our users. So, for example, if you're using your Gmail calendar, and perhaps you create a meeting. In that, we will suggest some Gmail contacts that you've spoken to recently, who you might, for example, want to invite to that meeting. So, combining across different services is useful to users. But
it's also useful to advertisers. Isn't this the prime purpose of doing all of this?
Yes, and we should be very clear about this. Some people have suggested that we give data to advertisers. That absolutely isn't the case. What we do is advertisers say to us, we would like to offer advertising, for example, against recipes. So if people are searching for recipes or writing about recipes in their Gmail, then we would offer advertising.
So how safe is this data that you gather of these millions of people?
It's very safe. It remains within your account. It's not given to anybody. That doesn't change at all. And of course, if you don't want to store data, you can not log into Google. So you can use Google Search without signing into an account. If you do choose to be signed in, you can also manage that service. So we have something called Google Dashboard. We also have something called the Ads Preferences Manager, and you can control and manage the data that's held in your account, and you can control what advertising you receive.
A lot of worry about this, a lot of concern. And there's also some thought that it may not even be legal. The European courts are looking at it. Should you not just pause for a little while and see what happens before you push ahead with it?
We announced these changes back in January, and since then we have notified users of in a very, very big notification effort. And we've also been consulting very widely with regulators right across Europe. Now, the French authorities who've made a complaint this week, we have been trying to talk to them over recent weeks, and thus far haven't been able to get a meeting. So our offer of a meeting still stands. We're very, very happy to answer regulators' questions.
Peter Barron there from Google.